Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. My passion is having day drinks with my bestie.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
You don't ever do anything that is important to you. You just do the ballet pickup over and over again.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
My health looks like sleeping a lot in Amy's phase of life. And now in my phase of life, my health looks like going to the gym 3 days a week.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
There has to be a birthday party for your 4-year-old, but it doesn't have to be with engraved invitations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. Today, we're going to talk about systems that work and how to create a system that you can stick with and that your family will stick with. And it's a back to one. That's my hot take.
It's a back to one. It's a your mileage may vary. It's a fixed and variables. We got a lot going on. This started with a post from Amy not you, a different Amy, although you do love your systems. In our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/whatfreshhellcast. If you're not in there, you're really missing out. So much great stuff going on in the group. Amy reached out saying that she's trying to figure out how to make systems work in her house. Her husband is a firefighter who works a lot. She works full-time out of the home, soon to be 4 and 5-year-old kids. He does shift work, and what she's looking for is systems and ways to operate that take things off of her plate when he's not there, and ways for him to step in when he is without her having to walk through everything. And she says she's already pretty much operating in survival mode, single parent mode, all the time as it is. And she's lacking a village for support, hoping this changes gradually now that the kids are school age. But she's a transplant where she is. This is a big
so
one.
Much. This is everything. Solve. She starts out saying, trying to figure out how to make systems work when this is my reality. And then she names a very hard reality that is going to be extremely familiar to a lot of people listening, that how does a system fix this particular blend of I'm doing everything all the time and I also work full time out of the home?
Yep. And one thing I would suggest is reading a book by tremendous author Amy Wilson called Happy to Help. It reminded me of some of the stuff in your book, Amy, about, I think we want to address right away, this can't be fixed and this can be fixed. Because I think part of it, I have a friend who I remember several years ago now when our kids were younger, her husband has a similar crazy work schedule. She's a very busy working mom, 2 kids, and she was talking about it. And I just said, wow, that really is as hard as you think it is. It just cannot really be fixed and you must be exhausted. And I just saw this flood of relief kind of come over her almost tearfully. She was like, thank you. Because obviously we're dismissive of stay-at-home moms and we'll just get your kids to school and then you must sit around watching soaps all day. And, you know, it is as hard as you think it is. It is impossibly hard. And there are elements that can't be fixed.
Right. And so this isn't hard for this Facebook group poster. It isn't hard because she's weak or because her systems aren't good enough. It's because the actual reality is kind of untenable. And I would say this is something that's really helped me in this situation. I always felt very guilty about having help. Even when my kids were, I had 3 kids under 5 all at the same time. I had a spouse who was working all the time. And we, with our eyes open, made that decision. You work hard, I'll take care of the kids. But I was drowning, and I felt like I couldn't get help because I shouldn't need help. And somebody said to me one day, like, yeah, I do. I have help. I have somebody come over and she assists me in taking care of the kids. She doesn't replace me. And I thought that was a really good mindset. You're not weak that you have more to do than you can handle. And you're definitely not weak if you get help handling it, particularly when, as Amy says about her spouse, you have a firefighter spouse who travels out of state sometimes. Any help that you're getting, if you get a college kid to come over from 4 to 6 some evenings, that's not help for you. That's really replacing your spouse's contribution.
Yeah. And I think because when I was younger, but when my kids were young, also the idea of help is how can we fix this situation? That help could be a 13-year-old who you're paying $10 an hour. It doesn't have to be a full-time sitter. My sister does a thing, and I know Amy talks about that she's not super connected, but as you grow connections, they have a group of 5 and they take turns cleaning each other's house, the 5 of them. My sister doesn't have kids, but I don't believe the 5 women. I think most of them don't have kids, but they call it the socialist cleaning service is their little joke. But it's basically like they once a month go around and clean each other's houses. And I get my house cleaned right now by a person who I pay. I'm not part of a socialist cleaning service, but it's once a month and it makes a huge difference to know once a month we kind of go back to clean. And then every time she comes, I'm like, oh, it's dirty again. But it's a month and I'm not in a position where I have somebody come in once a week. I would if I was in that position, but once a month is good. So I think staring down the realities and then starting from a place with the question of what would help. Because I think it can feel very overwhelming to pause and think about. There's no time to sit and think about what's working. There's no time to think about what would help. There's no time to find a 13-year-old.
Right. That's it. And that keeps you stuck.
Taking the time, it keeps you stuck. We're in Dr. Lynetta Willis's Stable Misery. A 13-year-old would be more trouble than it's worth. Maybe. And maybe you're not wrong. And maybe that's not the solution, but is having pizza for dinner 3 nights a week the solution? It's fine to have pizza for dinner 3 nights a week if that's what you need in this month. This month, have gotten significantly less busy than I have been in other months of my life. And I find that I'm cooking extremely elaborate dinners right now. Like I'm making something new and it has 10 ingredients and 2 sides and everyone's kind of enjoying it. They're like, wow, this is really pretty good. But there were periods of my life where I got pizza 3 times a week and neither one of those things is genuinely affecting the outcome of my children's lives. It's fine.
And if that system, that is a system, like we get pizza. I live in New York City. That's a system. It's a fallback. I can get any kind of food I want in 20 minutes. If that's a system that works for you, then it works for you. If it's a system that's starting to be too expensive or starting to be like too much waste for your comfort level, then you readdress the system. But right, that's a system that works. It occurs to me that this listener is actually having 2 different problems that are worth, I think, addressing in 2 different ways. She says she's looking for systems that will take things off her plate or make things easier when she's functionally operating as a single parent. And that's one kind of thing. We actually have an episode about that. I'll link to that in the show notes. When your spouse travels a lot and you're kind of doing it all yourself. So seasons of solo parenting, I think we called it. So we'll find that and link to it. So that's one. And then the other one is systems so that when your spouse is around to contribute and pull their weight, that they're not just constantly like coming to you for instructions on every step, or that you're the repository of what time does ballet start, how to hand that stuff over. And that I think is kind of about making it visible.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of things we can turn to, Amy. One, I really recommend the fresh take that I did with Jessica Slice, who is a disabled parent. I found the perspective, her constants and variables are very defined by being disabled. So she has a limited amount of energy. She has a very limited amount of things that she can do. And I think it's a very good perspective. And we talk about that it can be a little bit tweet, like, oh, the simple life of the disabled person who has had to figure this out. And she addresses that and I think speaks about it very frankly. But there are ways in which her limited abilities bring this into focus in a very specific way. I thought it was really useful. It's not optional. Because I think we can tell ourselves the story of, if not me, who, and I have to do it all, and none of these things are variables, they are all constants. I have a therapist who likes to ask me the question all the time, well, what would happen if that does happen? What would be the worst thing that would happen? Go to that. What happens if it all falls down? And I often think my husband when we were dating, had an extremely busy job and could not be away from it. You know, we couldn't go get dinner. We couldn't this, we couldn't that because he had to work, which I think was true. And then we were involved in a motor vehicle accident and he was extremely badly injured and was out of his work entirely for 8 weeks with no notice. And his job survived. And it's just a useful mental exercise, I think. And I don't want to undercut the fact that, like, you can't just let it go. And yes, people would survive if you weren't there, but that doesn't mean you don't need to be there. But I think a good first step when you're in these modes is to say, what must happen? And be very kind of tough on yourself with that answer.
Yes, because I think we can over-index sometimes for the, like, you don't need cloth napkins at the dinner table that are freshly ironed. It's like, look, I was not doing that. My problems are so much more basic than my too high standards. But I think separating it into, like, this has to happen. The kids have to eat something tonight, right? And what's optional is very useful.
Yeah, and what would it look like? I have one night of the week where I have kids who go in different directions, and I can usually handle it because my husband works locally and can usually take a break and bring one of them home. But we had a night where he was away and, you know, the moving pieces were not going to move in the right direction. And I ended up, now I live in New York suburbs, so maybe it's easier here. I ordered an Uber for my 13-year-old kid, which I thought seemed kind of crazy. But the Uber just picked her up and dropped her off at home, and it was totally fine. Like, where are the places where if you needed to, and I do live somewhere where I have a good village, but I kind of play those cards a little bit carefully. It wasn't quite important enough to be like, hey, friend, in the middle of dinner, could you instead drive 2 towns over and pick up my kid from her guitar lesson? But I do think that thinking about the solution being the most important thing helps to say, okay, do I really want my 13-year-old in a car with a stranger? I don't in an ideal world, but the rubber hit the road and that was the solution. And the solution worked out fine.
The pickups and drop-offs, this is something where, again, it feels like more work in the short term, but creating a system, because this listener is saying she doesn't really have a village or that their family doesn't really have a village yet, but the last thing you feel like you have time to do is create a village for ballet pickup and drop off. But there are other parents who are scrambling to get to that pickup every week. And you can be the person who creates that system, which again is a couple of emails, I realize. But then that system is in place. And there are probably many, many other parents who'd be very happy to do the ballet pickup once every 4 weeks instead of every single week.
And I do think that Amy is in a very specific and challenging phase of life because her kids haven't started school yet. So next September, her kid is going to start kindergarten, and that opens up a whole world of connections. And then you just have to lean into those connections. So at pickup, I live in a town where we actually don't have busing. And so right away at pickup, I was like, who's coming where and who's when and who can help me with this driving and who's at the preschool. And you do have to work at it, but it's kind of inertia, like going from sitting at home, not knowing anybody in the town, how am I ever going to make this work, once you get into the schools, those systems start rolling and there's other people doing them. And you suddenly know all of your kids' friends in a way that you might not right now. And those systems, I think, get a lot easier when your kids are in the school systems, because there's 4 kids who go to karate on Thursdays. And so you can even ask the teacher, who are the moms? The karate moms. Okay, I got to get in with the karate moms, the soccer moms. And then if we have outlying activities, you can really head into that kindergarten meetups and all of those things with an eye to like, I got to get my teammates together.
Right. And then beware if you're that person, because then you become that person and then you're the one who's in charge of the, karate schedule for the rest of time. That's hard, but you do it not because somebody should do it or because you want a gold star, but because it will make your Tuesday night easier. Then you have to be okay with handing that over or letting that pickup system stop once you don't need it to work that way anymore.
Exactly. All right. We're going to be back after this break with some very tangible systems.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. Okay, so I looked up an article called How I Stay Organized as a Working Mom by Kate Hayes of centralmassmom.com. These apply even if you don't live in Central Mass, as it turns out.
Is that true? Good. They're not geolocated tips. That's good.
These tips all sounded familiar to me in just the right way. And I could tell because Amy put a picture up that was color-coded calendar of how she's organizing. She's a systems person, and I'm not the biggest systems person. I'm a little bit more catch as catch can, but I could tell she's already got system orientation. So
it's not have a system is not the solution here. It's like, I got a system. How do I systemize this?
And I want to say that when you talk about your husband who is often absent because of his work schedule, not because he's choosing absence, reintegrating a spouse into the household with kids is extremely challenging. They teach classes on this for people who are returning from military service, who are returning from prison sentences. Reintegrating a parent into an already functioning system is as hard as you think it is. It is something that people have to overcome all the time. And the fact that your husband is often around doesn't mean it's not hard. So like it can be easier, and this is a problem that comes up and people have done studies about for people who are returning from absences. The integration is extremely challenging because it works without that person, but then the person is there and you kind of want them to help. But again, getting them up to speed seems very annoying and challenging. So maybe better to just do it yourself. But then we have a lot of resentment over a person who's in the house and not helping enough. It's a real problem. So here are Kate Hayes' suggestions, all of which I thought were really interesting and good. Number one, create a central source of truth. So I've talked before, my husband and I have a Google document. I love a Google Doc.
I am not a Google Docs fan. I love a shared doc, and I'm not a Google Docs fan, but whatever works, right?
But where do you share your doc?
Oh, I mean, we could do a whole other episode on like, here's the, software that I use, but I always found like Google Doc is like, I just was this morning with somebody that we work with, like, where is that Google sheet? You create it and then you can never find it again. But I totally agree with having the editable exists in the cloud. I use Notion, I use Evernote, I use other stuff, but I love this idea of like, this is where this is. There's a place.
Yeah. My husband and I have really gotten away from this because both of our work schedules are in a place now that we just sort of text like, hey, did you see that thing from the doctor? They need a form filled out. Can you do that today or should I do it? And we kind of do that a little bit more. But believe me, I've had seasons where I did not have that. Having a central source of truth. This looks like a family calendar, which I think Amy already has, but also maybe a list of family birthdays that are coming up. Maybe somebody else said they go room by room and like the window pane needs to be replaced in this room. Like, what are the things that are going on that need to be dealt with at some point? And can we check those things off? I mean, Amy and I have worked together for years. We have a ton of systems that are go here and find it. That way we don't have to constantly text each other and be like, wait, what's next? Who's researching next episode? Blah, blah, blah. Central source of truth. Did I explain that in a way that makes sense, Amy?
You did. And it occurs to me, Alison Damager, the sociologist who I love, there was an article in the New York Times about these new calendars, like the Skylight calendar, and they actually are pretty good because they synthesize all these different calendars, but they also make it visible because she says that the default parent is also the calendar parent. And everybody listening to this is the calendar parent. And I do think it's like yet another thing, this magical Skylight calendar that gets populated. It's great that it exists, but if you have a parenting partner, they need to understand like, okay, you add the soccer games to the one source of truth shared calendar. It doesn't get there magically, that all these inputs are supposed to live in your head, right? My kid the other day was asking me, I was at my kid's college graduation. I'm dealing with grandparents and I got a big group of slow moving people that I'm dealing with. And my college graduate, who is of course not staying with us, staying on campus, what time am I supposed to be there for graduation tomorrow? And where am I supposed to be? I'm like, I definitely have no idea, but I'm the calendar parent. So he just figured like I would know. I must know. And I honestly, it wasn't like I know and I won't tell you. I'm like, why would they tell me where you have to be when you won't be with us? So anyway, it's like you have to push back, you have to create this stuff and then be like, by the way, I'm creating this stuff and it's a lot of work.
Yeah. I also think I'm currently planning a party with my siblings. I'm local. One of my sisters is not as local as me, but more local. And then I have two siblings who are far away. And one of the things, we had a Zoom meeting, how are we going to plan it? And one of my disciplines is to look at anything that can be done remotely and give it to one of the remote siblings. And I think that that is a good idea with the spouse. My husband, we have a couple of spheres. I tend to do the tactile hands-on things, but if it's sending a medical form to camp, my husband should be able to do that during a break during his day. So thinking in terms of hands-on or can be done remotely, I think is a really useful set of parameters for how you think about who's doing what. And if I find myself filling out an online form, it's like, whoa, I don't need to be doing this. This is not something that needs to be touched. Therefore, people 3,000 miles away can do this just as easily as I can.
And then you put the link in the Google Doc and link out to it and do it when you want. And then part of the system, I think, needs to be I did this. There's a checkbox or it's slide it over to done or whatever.
My sister, who's much more of a systems person, created a Google spreadsheet. And here's all the tasks that need to be done, who's doing what, and maybe here's the 4 votes on the appetizers. What do you guys think? And, it turns out we have gluten-free guests. Is there something for them? And we're just talking we're not having to do big meetings over everything. Mm-hmm. It's spheres, which I think can be really important. But as a person who does like to be in control, I have to check myself quite often as I shouldn't be doing this. I don't need to be touching this. Mm-hmm. The next suggestion from Kate Hayes at centralmassmom.com is organize healthy habits. I think that the whole plan in self-care, blah, 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 it can be annoying.
Yeah. Annoying if it means make sure you exercise so you fit in your clothes. That's not healthy.
Yeah, but I have found both in work and with my spouse and with my kids that I now plan in. I have 3 gym classes that I like. I plan them in Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And those are just blocked out on my calendar. I know that's where I'm going to be during those times. And this may not be the season to be going to the gym for Amy or other people in this situation. But one of the things I've talked about, I always had sleep in Saturdays. My husband was very busy during the week, but I knew even when my kids were tiny and I wasn't sleeping and I was bleeding from the eyeballs by Friday afternoon, I knew that Friday night I could get 12 hours of sleep because my husband was in charge of the kids on Saturday mornings. And so where can your partner help you to do the things that are falling off your list? Whether that's, I would say it's extremely important when you're in Amy's phase of life to prioritize sleep. And I would put that at the head of the list. Okay, if you're only home on Sunday, Sunday is a personal day for me. If I don't get out of bed once on Sunday, that's what it's going to look like. Because the most important thing is my health. And my health looks like sleeping a lot in Amy's phase of life. And now in my phase of life, my health looks like going to the gym 3 days a week.
Because you have the bandwidth. That's right. You don't want somebody who's bleeding from the eyeballs, as you say, to be and then for my free time, I go to Barry's boot camp because I have to stay in shape. Don't, go to sleep.
No, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Take a nap. Oh, she is the person, Kate, on the list. This was building a house list. What needs to be done room by room in the house, what the priority is. And this prevents what I think we all get into, which is the whack-a-mole, where you're just and you also didn't fix the pane of glass that was broken. Well, I think most people are not doing things because they're venal monsters who want to cause us personal damage. It's probably because they're also really tired. And I have a window that I'm looking at right now in front of me that is frosted over. You know how double panes of glass get that white film?
Oh, yeah. I have one in my apartment. Yeah.
And it's been there since we moved to the house 8 years ago. And I really can't stand it. But it has never gotten to the top of our list, because it's oddly thousands of dollars to replace a frosted out window. But if it's on the list and I'm okay, we're making a choice not to replace it as opposed to my awful husband doesn't love me enough to replace it, it just takes on a very different meaning. And I think this house list thing, it takes some of that emotion out.
And you put it on the Google Doc or whatever your Notion list, your source of truth, so that it's this has to be done. It's also not they didn't do it because they're a monster. They didn't do it because it slipped their mind. And darn, it always slips my mind. We have a list. I just keep a handwritten list on our kitchen counter of stuff to do around here. That blind needs to be fixed. That light needs to be replaced. And Of course, I'm better at making that to-do list than crossing things off it, but it's just kind of there. And sometimes I get to stuff on it and sometimes my spouse does. But if you have a list and it gets out of your brain and it gets out of the like things that are irritable between you and it's just there on the list and somebody will get to it and cross it off when they get to it.
Right. And like all lists, we have the like shaky chair leg that I would like to get fixed, but every day someone had a meet or someone had somewhere to be, or one night the fire alarm started beeping and like that needs to be dealt with more than the shaky chair leg. That's immediate. It bumped everything else off the list. I think the more you make this stuff visible and you make it, okay, it's us versus the list rather than me versus the frosted window that you should have done. And now I hate you. Mm-hmm. She has, this I think will light you up, Amy. Kate Hayes again, weekly 3. So she has 3 categories: work, home, and passions. And she, on Monday, writes down 3 things she wants to accomplish in each category.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. Just something about it's like, I don't want to have to complete my passions list. I don't want to list 3 things but I get it, because then you don't ever do anything that is important to you. You just do the ballet pickup over and over again.
I agree, but I would also reflect back that you work in your passion to some degree. You know what I mean? Like you're writing and making a podcast. Mm-hmm. I know when my kids were little, I had stopped working as a television writer. I was home. I wasn't doing anything creative. And I eventually got daycare 2 days a week, I think. And during those 2 days, I wrote a parenting blog, which was not successful and made no money, called Short Fat Dictator. It still exists. You can go look up.
Such a good one.
You could go.
I mean, what do you mean it wasn't successful? It led to this.
I mean, you're right. Very good point. But it wasn't making any money, I guess, is what I mean by successful.
You're doing it because you wanted to, not because, yeah.
It fell. I remember when I had my first baby, I came home and my husband bought me a laptop computer. And I just cried. It was like the best gift I ever got, because it was him saying, like, fundamentally, you're a writer. He didn't get me a diaper bag. He got me a laptop to say, this is who you are, along with being a mom. And I do think that those moments are very important. That, like, I know what you mean, which is, and now I have to go to the gym and do a passion. They don't have to be on your lists. But I do know for me, part of what was feeding into like a sense of overall despair and hopelessness when I had 3 kids under 4 was, this is what I do now. I like breastfeed children and I clean up a kitchen that has rats in the oven. Like it felt pretty dire, you know?
Great copy, but a tough life.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing. And then, of course, her final point, which is, I think, our final point, is sometimes let it all go. And I think this is the most important, is to realize what can fall. And the fundamental reality is everything could fall. You could get hit by a bus and get out of the equation. And at the end of the day, everyone would somehow survive. Now, that's not your bottom line, but realizing that it's okay to let go is such an important part of this conversation.
And getting really, I mean, I do get really attentive about these things need to happen today. These 4 things, like, you know, call the vet. This needs to happen today because it must, or because I've been putting it off for too long and this is it. But only these things. And I think when you're in the system of like your spouse is traveling and it's 2 little kids and it's this, the birthday party is going to be really simple. It's going to be a grocery store cake and some kids come over. And there has to be a birthday party for your 4-year-old, but it doesn't have to be with engraved invitations. I mean, what needs to happen and what doesn't need to happen, just make sure you keep that line on your list, and there are only a very few things get above that line.
Very good point. All right, we'll be right back with some advice from our Facebook group. Always useful.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
And now, kinds of time for moms.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast, lead time.
The amount of time it will take to get from where you are to any given point. Lead time increases by a factor of 6 for each additional child involved.
Family fun time.
It could be the pumpkin patch, the train playground, or the indoor fun zone. But wherever it is, you will come home with a migraine and at least one member of your party in tears.
Time off.
An opportunity for you and your spouse to get out and reconnect during the minutes you are not complaining about how tired you are and or checking your watch to see how much time you have left on the babysitter clock.
Alone time.
Any time spent with fewer than your actual number of children. For example, if you have 4 kids, time spent with only 3 of them is calculated as alone time. See also any time spent in the bathroom with fewer than 2 children yelling requests through the locked door.
Downtime.
Time for you. Between things you have to do. Please use this time to catch up on laundry, dishes, and vacuuming.
Mom time.
This is it. You time, Mama. Yours and yours alone. It tends to happen in 3-minute increments and once a year on Mother's Day before you have to start cleaning up from breakfast in bed. But enjoy it while you can. This has been Kinds of Time for Moms.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast. One other thing I wanted to address before we move on is this is from Marika Lindholm, and she writes about creative strategies from single parents on juggling work and family. And we won't go through all of these strategies, but she does cite a study, and I think this is just a mental note, that children of single parents, solo parents, in general, are more resilient and self-sufficient. And this is something worth underlining as a positive. My cousin lost her husband young and had 4 very young kids. And she was working and found herself truly drowning in the most profound sense. And at some point, her daughter wanted to go to some camp and researched it. And, my cousin was like, I don't know. See if you can print out the forms and fill them out. And the daughter printed out the forms, filled them out herself, sent them in. Maybe called her doctor and got her medical records. And anyway, sent this all to the camp when she was maybe 12 or 13 years old. And the camp wrote back and they're like, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen. We have never seen a camper fill these forms out. And I think my cousin had a ton of guilt and worry about not doing everything for her girls, but there were upsides to letting kids figure some things out themselves. And I have a thing today where I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick up my kids. There's no school bus. It's about a 2-mile walk. And I'm like, they can walk home. It's not going to kill them to walk 2 miles. It's a long walk at the end of a busy school day. Normally, I don't ask them to do it, but you might have to walk, kids. And that's not a horrible failing. And you know why they're walking? Because I'm going out to have lunch with my best friend who happens to be in town. Not because I'm going to cure cancer. Like, I'm doing it just because I want to. and they're going to have to figure it out.
It's one of your 3 passions.
It's on my passion list. My passion is having day drinks with my bestie. And
Partying.
That is their problem, as it turns out. And my comfort level with this has changed over the years. And my comfort level with putting a teen in an Uber has changed. And I wouldn't have done some of these things when they were 4 and 5. But letting them do more is good for them. And so comfort yourself with that.
Margaret Lindholm also says that virtual networking is a critical idea. And she suggests Facebook. And I'm just thinking the Facebook for my neighborhood in New York City is constantly somebody saying like, I'm home from college for the summer and here are my skills and I'll do this. Or somebody saying, my elderly mother needs somebody to come sit with her on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. And people are constantly finding each other that way. And I do think that's available and you can try. You can take a bite of the apple, have that, as you said, that 13-year-old or the college student who's home for the summer, just come over for a little bit and for the most crunched time, whatever that is for you. For me, it was always like 6 to 8, 5 to 7, whatever, right?
Mine was 5 to 7, baby. I had my daycare person's daughter would come 5 to 7 a couple nights a week and just helping with the bath, or 6 to 8 and like getting them dinner and helping, then somebody's with the baby in the bath while you're trying to figure out the one who's having a tantrum because their jammies are scratchy. Here are some suggestions from our Facebook group in response to Amy's question. I thought some of these were really smart. Mari says, and this is so smart, have a weekly touch base, even if it's on the phone or super short. And my husband and I fall out of this. And when we do, we need to go back to it, which is what's coming up this week? Who's traveling? I'm not here Thursday night. And so who's getting dinner that night? That's got to be you. And now our kids are old enough to that's the night they can just walk into town and get pizza, But especially when you have kids, I mean, your life will change so much when you have kids who someone doesn't have to be with all the time. Because when you have kids who are 4 and 5, you can't have a 10-minute gap. Nowadays I can have a 4-hour gap where I'm like, we're going out, guys, get yourself some dinner. And it's wonderful. But I had years and years of my life where I had 3 in 4 years and they couldn't be left alone.
She says, Mari, the things that you talk about in this weekly catch-up. And again, I think I would probably keep a running list and bring this to the meeting and then make sure my partner's doing the same thing, that I'm not in charge of here's a list of important things and I keep the list and I tell you the list and that's all you do is listen. She says things we'd talk about was the door code for the daycare changed, or this kid doesn't like cucumbers anymore, so let's stop buying them. They can be little, but they're important. She says there's not a huge download then when you have to hand over the reins, because the parent who is less involved in the daily grind understands the details of the daily grind, knows the pediatrician's name, knows the phone number, stuff like that. Or has somewhere they can find it.
Or has somewhere they can find them. And I mean, I've dealt with this when caring for a relative or somebody. You keep a document that's like, this is the nurse and this is the medication. And because we can't constantly have conversations of wait, what? And then again, what creeps into that is, why don't you know this? Why do I know this? Blah, 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 blah. The more you can centralize information. She talks about an idea that I think is really interesting. Keeping a OneNote, Amy? Is that some sort of, it's like a shared document?
It's like a Microsoft thing. Yeah. I think it's like Apple Notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the kid and childcare routines written out, including the timing of the morning routine, bottles, ounces, and keep adding to it. This is a document that you generally create when the grandparents are coming to take care of the kids so you can go on vacation. But having stuff written out that is important, and it really gets rid of that step of, I can't believe you don't know that the kid takes 6 ounces in a bottle twice a week. You might have somebody who doesn't know that, but here it is. And I got to go check the doc. Easier than now I can't go because I have to download you for an hour about everything that has to be done.
Right. Michelle says here that what works for her is to basically, in these moments, to think of myself as a single parent when planning and scheduling. When he's home, it's a bonus because he does a ton of work. But when he's away for days at a time, we still manage. I mean, I get why that mindset would work. And I still think that this OneNote, this weekly meeting, these things like that, it's stay in it. This shouldn't be a mystery to you, the workings of this household. This shouldn't be, you don't have to think about all this while you're in Siberia. This is what's happening right here.
Yeah, and I think that's right, that we have a put me in coach joke in our family, you show up and you're like, put me in coach, I'm here early for the party. And what can I do to be helpful is predicated on that the document and the thing that's ready to go, or the meeting that's happened, or figuring out the routines at some point, so that the person who's asking to be put in can actually be helpful. And it's not like, oh, never mind, you just put them in a shirt with a tag on it. It's going to ruin our whole day because you don't even know that our kid can't have a shirt with a tag on it.
Right. It's a structural thing. When you are the primary parent, the calendar parent, the default parent, you are going to know that stuff more than the spouse does. And we can fix as a society this idea that the default parent knows this stuff and the other parent just asks the default parent. And like, should it be that way? No. Should we change as a society? Probably. But in terms of what's making next week easier for you when you have a spouse that travels and you're the default parent, is to own that, right? And then as generous as you can, I think, with sharing the details of life on this ongoing basis. So then, as you say, you're not annoyed in the moment. Like, I've told you this 3 times. The parking for the soccer is actually across the street. Put it on a sheet.
Well, and I think also there is a big role for the entering parent to respect the work of the default parent. And that means I had a child for 2 years who would not wear short sleeve shirts. This child would announce, I don't want to see my arms. That was the hill they would die on. They want a shirt that doesn't let them see their arms. That was the rule.
To the wrist, full to the wrist, not like bracelet length. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Long sleeve. So in summertime, we had to have a collection of like rash guardy, kind of very lightweight long sleeve shirts. But this child was not comfortable in a short sleeve shirt. If you want to come in and be like, that's ridiculous, I'm going to put them in a short sleeve shirt, and then I'm going to have a day with a tantrum, like 12 hours of a kid who's tantruming because for whatever reason that upsets them, that's really not your call. Don't come in and be like, I'm going to fix. My cousin runs a restaurant. I may have said this before, but I think it's a good metaphor. And he's like, I don't hire chefs. I hire cooks. I want somebody to make the buffalo wing taste exactly the same way it tasted yesterday. I don't want your innovation. I don't want your improvements. I want you to come in and make a buffalo wing that tastes the same way as the guy had it a week ago because he liked it then. And I think that it's very fair to say to your incoming partner, I'm not available for notes. I'm not interested in the fact that you don't think it's reasonable that this kid wants a short sleeve shirt. Come in and make the buffalo wing the same way it was made last Friday, because if you want to innovate, there may be time in the schedule when you're more available to carve some of that space out. But when you tap in, play the playbook and don't ask questions about the playbook. That is not your job.
This is so... Can I give you a showbiz example of this? When you replace... So I was on Broadway once and I replaced the actor. And it was sort of a special situation because eventually all the actors were replaced. And so then we could play. But when I came in, I had to watch this, I got the opportunity to watch this person do the part, right? And when I came in, I was to pick up the gloves at the exact moment that she did so that I could walk to the door so that I'd be there when the actor who's been playing this part every night and who's going to be playing this part with me next week instead of her. So it's exactly the same way. It was not my job to bring a new color to the part, to make it better, to surprise everybody, to try something new. It was to do it to exactly the same. So that's right. You're entering this, you're watching it, you're learning it, and you're entering the system. You're not trying to change it.
And that is a completely fair ask. That's right. I was looking on TikTok the other day and it was a bunch of people who played Elphaba in Wicked, the witch. And it's a famously like huge singing part, huge songs. And in the movie, the 2 women who played it did all sorts of different things with the score. But when you play Elphaba, they have a no runs rule. So you're not allowed to come in and be like, defying gravity. Like, you just sing defying gravity. You are there to serve the role and you sing it the way that the 8 people before you sang it. They don't want to hear your amazing new take on Elphaba. You're just there to play Elphaba. Go. Because you ruin everybody else's thing and you ruin the audience's experience of it if you decide to come in and be like, I'm going to sing Defying Gravity in a minor key to really make it my own. No, thank you. We're here to see Elphaba sing Defying Gravity. And I think that's really important. I'll finish with Louise from the Facebook group because I think this is unsaid, but also very important to say. She says the key to setting up systems is being careful with your expectations of yourself on any given day. Different systems for different days. Weekdays when he works different than weekdays when he doesn't work. Weekdays when you're both working are just survival days. The goal are to get the kids from school and activities and make sure everyone's fed. And don't forget...
Right. That's above the line, right? Everything else is below the line.
Fed healthy and organic foods, maybe some other week, maybe next week, maybe this week is pizza. I mean, I have told the story that I truly would disguise my voice when calling the pizza place at some point because I was embarrassed that we were getting pizza 3 nights a week, but I couldn't handle anything else. I couldn't feed them the flippin' rainbow. I couldn't do it. I just needed to put food in that 5 people could all agree on without crying.
And your kids, I had a friend who was not a parent who had this explain this to me, like, but aren't the kids happier when they have pizza for dinner? I'm like, you're right, they are.
And it's fine. It doesn't mean they're going to eat pizza forever. I'm sure a pediatrician would tell you the 800 things that are not a great idea about feeding your kids 3 times a week pizza. But I think any pediatrician would say you have to do what gets you through the day, first and foremost.
Yes. And things that are non-negotiable, like feeding the kids is non-negotiable. Bath is negotiable. That can go to every other night if they weren't playing in the dirt. And getting really clear about what has to happen and then doing that stuff and then sit down.
Constants and variables. And I think central sources of truth and explaining things once is something that I will take away from this too. And kind of making the list the bad guy, not your spouse who hasn't done the things on the list. It's like, yeah, it's still there. The frosted window. I will probably, until we sell this house, have a frosted window. And I accept that about myself, Amy. I feel we solved it. This was helpful for me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, and you do because you're still listening at this point, please go to Apple Podcasts, search What Fresh Hell, unless that's where you're listening right now, and give us some stars, some kind words. We are very close to 1,000 reviews, which matters for reasons. It just does. And so we would love, if you haven't reviewed the podcast before, for you to contribute to that.
We have 957 reviews, friends. We need, math is my friend, 43 more, Amy?
43. I mean, put it on the lower down on the list. Feed the kids, bathe the kids, and then if you have time left, then go.
If you're Amy, don't review our podcast. You're way too busy.
We're not talking to you, Amy.
No, Amy, take this off your list. You don't need another thing right now. Maybe have that firefighter husband come in and do the review.
He could do it.
He's got free time. He could do it.
He could do it for you.
On the central dock. We love it. Thanks so much to Amy for this great question that spurred this great conversation. If you have something you'd love to hear us talk about, put it up on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/WhatFreshHellcast.
Yeah.
And let us know what you'd like to hear us discuss, because this is a great way for us to find topics.
Yeah.
And with that, friends, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
So long.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.